As wrestling fans, we are used to seeing headlines like WWE releases 10 wrestlers or WWE makes budget cuts. Over the years, it's just become a common occurrence, but every time it happens, the timeline explodes as if people have forgotten just 1 year ago when the exact same thing happened. People react differently. Some people are devastated, some people overreact and swear they're going to boycott WWE. And some people immediately start fantasy booking where these wrestlers could go next. But here's the question. What is the right reaction? Not just from a fan perspective, but from an ethical one. Because when a wrestler is released, it's more than wrestling. It's someone losing their job. It's uncertainty. It's stress. It's a career potentially derailed. And yet, part of being a wrestling fan means living in this weird space where we just have to accept these things. So today, I want to break this down. What do releases actually mean in the wrestling world? How should we react? Should we boycott WWE? Would that actually make a difference? Or is the bitter truth, it just doesn't really matter? Let's talk about it.
Oh, and by the way, Beaner Bronco Buster?
Yeah.
Where the hell did that come from?
Improv.
Oh, it's wonderful.
So in the intro, I talked about the different ways people react when a wrestler gets released, but I left one out. There's one reaction I didn't mention, one that's never okay, and that's the people who take it upon themselves to belittle the wrestlers who got released. You've seen it. The people who immediately jump online and say, well, they just weren't good enough, or they didn't draw, what do you expect? I genuinely don't know what possesses someone to think that this is a valid response. Maybe they're blindly defending WWE, maybe they're trying to farm engagement, but none of that matters. If your first instinct when someone loses their job is to try to justify it, to turn a real life disappointment into some kind of scoreboard debate, you're not analyzing wrestling, you're dehumanizing the people in it. That's never the right response, and frankly, it says a lot more about you than it does about the wrestler. Now that we've dealt with the bad faith reactions, let's talk about the rest of us. The fans who genuinely do care, or at least feel like we should. Because that's the heart of the question, right? When WWE releases someone, should we care? And to answer that, we need to split this into two very different conversations. One is emotional and ethical. The other is practical and entertainment based. Because on one hand, we're talking about real people losing real jobs. But on the other hand, we're also talking about how that affects our experience as fans. And two things can be true at once. As I've said before, these are real people losing real jobs. We have to take this into consideration with any sort of media we consume, not just wrestling. It's easy to get caught up in the spectacle of it all, but at the end of the day, these are human beings whose livelihoods have been disrupted. You know, some may bounce back quickly. I mean, we've seen it 1,000 times when a release turns into a blessing, but unfortunately, others will be left scrambling for work, figuring out how to support their families, and wrestling with the emotional toll of being let go from a job they likely poured their entire lives into. I can admit, I myself have seen wrestlers be released and gotten excited. You know, I won't name names, but I've seen a wrestler be released and thought to myself, thank God WWE was holding them back. I've also selfishly seen a release and said, thank God I don't have to watch that wrestler wrestle anymore. Neither of these reactions are necessarily right or wrong. They're selfish. But that brings us to the other side. Wrestling is entertainment, it's a show, and when people leave the show, whether it's because of injury, retirement, or releases, it affects how we watch. That's the second half of this conversation, not how it affects them, the wrestlers, but how it affects us, the fans. In this batch of releases, we saw fan favorites like Dakota Kai, someone who could easily be plugged into the mid-card title scene whenever WWE wanted. Braun Strowman, a reliable big man who could have been used to put anyone over. We saw up-and-coming NXT talent like Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, and Jakara Jackson, women who are versatile in how WWE could have used them. Now, entertainment absolutely comes down to preference, so I can only speak for myself, but I will absolutely miss Dakota Kai. She was one of my favorite women's wrestlers, and like I said, Someone I truly believe could be used wherever WWE wanted, whether that be fighting for the Intercontinental Championship, fighting for tag titles with Damage Control, and we never got to see her against Bayley. That is something I personally really wanted to see, so of course, it feels like WWE left a lot of meat on the bone. This is why it's important to think about how we, the fans, are affected. We're not just losing wrestlers, we're losing potential stories, rivalries, moments that we will never get to see. And even if these names weren't your favorites, their presence gave the show texture, dimension, a sense that the fictional world of WWE was bigger than just the top 4 or 5 people. That's why we care, not just because of the humanity behind each release, but because we know what these performers could have meant to the show. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to feel like something's been taken from you, because in a way, it has. So to answer the question, yes, we should care. When WWE releases wrestlers, these are real people, real performers with real stories that we've already invested in. They have real lives that are being upended. If we can emotionally invest in the characters they play, we can at least show empathy for the people behind them. And more than just caring, it's okay to be angry, because the way WWE handles these releases is frankly disgusting. They'll cut wrestlers who are injured, still rehabbing from the physical toll this company put on them. They'll cut wrestlers in the middle of storylines. People have been pitching ideas and showing up ready to work, and then they'll try to justify it. Say someone's too old, or their body can't hold up, or they just don't want it bad enough. Meanwhile, this same company is setting record profits. They're selling out stadiums. They're making more money than they ever have in their history. And still, they let people go like it's trimming fat on a spreadsheet. No warning, no explanation, just a press release and a "we wish them best in their future endeavors." So yes, we should care. As fans, it's our obligation to care, but not just because we're fans, because we're human. Because the very least we can do is show a little compassion for the wrestlers who gave their bodies and hearts to entertain us, and for a wrestling industry that even at its biggest, too often treats talents like they're disposable.
Stop!